I'm calling to order the meeting of the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency for June 5th, 2013. Please join me in the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Chair Bill De La Pena, absent. Director Gibson.
Here.
Director Fox.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Chair Skay.
Here. And next item is public comments. I don't see any public comment cards. So let's just go straight to the Conejo Open Space Trails Advisory Committee reports. Ms. Austin, you have a report on volunteer corps activity?
Yes, thank you, Chair Skay. This is for volunteer corps activity between April and May of 2013. For the Adopt a Trail program, we had 34 reports filed and 47 volunteer hours donated. For Trail Watch, we had 44 reports submitted and 74 hours donated. For Trail Patrol, we had 133 patrol hours, and that brings that group up to 600 hours so far this year for volunteering, which is pretty impressive. And then we had one community outreach at the Los Robles Open Space on April 21st, and the volunteers there spoke to about 60 people about the open space and volunteer opportunities, which is great. And then for the second year in a row, we celebrated National Trails Day, which was Saturday, June 1st, with an introduction to geocaching hike in the Los Robles Open Space. And that was led by one of our really active volunteers, Steve Clark. And we had 10 people attend, and it was a really successful event. So it was fun, and we thank Steve for his organizing it and leading it and all his efforts. So
Very
thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Trails Education Days, Ms. Hagan.
Hello, I'm Elaine Hagan, and my report is about Trails Education Days 2013. This is the 21st year, and this year everything worked very smoothly. We had excellent weather, not too cold, not too hot, no rain, lots of volunteers, and the buses mostly ran on time. So 1,430 students attended from all 17 Conejo Valley Unified School District 5th grade elementary school 5th grade classes. The hikes were just exceptional this year. We had 38 hike leaders, and they led a total of 146 groups. So there were an average of just under 10 students per group, which is really, really good, because that way there really can be good close interaction. And the average number of hikes per hike leader was 4, although there were several people who hiked every day, 2 hikes, 10 total. I have to say Mark Langton ran the safety and courtesy workshop, and he led 6 workshops per day times 5 days. And by the end, he didn't know which end was up. So, anyway.
It's not really an accomplishment.
No, it was an accomplishment. It truly was. He kept saying, where's the next group? No, Mark, it's all done for the day. So anyway, also we received 829 student letters, entries to the contest, the writing contest. All of you, I think, have had a chance to see the 5 grand prize letters. And Rory signed thank you letters to all of our 91 volunteers and staff, and we really appreciate that part. Anyway, the students who were the 5 grand prize winners were honored both at CRPD board meeting and City Council. And it would be really wonderful if they could have come here, but conflicts of schedule made it pretty much impossible. So maybe another year we can plan on that. Speaking of another year, next year the dates are going to be April 7th through 11th. I got that word yesterday, and we're really happy to have the dates so quickly because so many of our volunteers scheduled spring travel And this year, I think there were about 8 people who normally volunteer who were out of the country or out of town. So we'll get the word out in plenty of time to avoid conflicts, and you all have the dates as well. So that's about it, and I thank you very much for your every bit of support that you give us, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Members have any questions of Ms. Hagan? Again, thank you very, and I also want to just again stress, 21 years is amazing.
I
Hard to
know.
believe it's been that long for
It
Trails
sure doesn't seem
Education
that
Days.
long.
But you and the volunteers from Cosca that organize all the letters from the kids and draft the thank you letters and get them all organized because some of the hike leaders get a lot of personal letters, but getting so that every volunteer gets at least one and sometimes 20 letters from the kids.
Yeah,
It's,
Mulaney Ashen handles most of that, as well as she organizes the judging. So she's out of the country right now, but she'll appreciate those words as well.
but an outstanding effort, and it is, I'm sure the other members would concur, the letters are touching and hilarious.
In some cases, both.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the consent calendar, which is the minutes of our meeting from April 10th. Any action by the board?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Madam Chair, I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here at that meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Directors Bill Della Pena and Jones. Let's see, and our big new item is the adoption of the Cosca strategic plan. Ms. Austin?
Thank you, Chair Skay, and I have a PowerPoint. Development of the Cosca strategic plan began in November 2010, and the board approved the draft strategic plan with minor changes in April 2013 at your last meeting. The changes incorporated into the final plan came from board recommendations and public comments received at the second workshop and during the public comment period as written comments. To summarize the changes, we've included the pages that the changes were made on, and they begin on page 7 of your packet. And the vision statement and guiding principle number 11 were modified as recommended by Director Gibson, and 6 implementation actions were modified, and then 3 implementation actions were added, including implementation action 11.4 as recommended by Director Gibson also, and this was regarding mitigation banking, water quality programs, and environmental buffers. The main categories of contents in the final strategic plan are the mission statement, the vision statement, 11 guiding principles, the implementation actions table, and a section on management and funding. The implementation actions are listed with their planned timeframes for completion. The categories for the timeframes are ongoing, years 1 through 4, years 5 through 7, and beyond 7 years. And this table begins on page 23 of the packet. And actually, that table is with the implementation actions grouped by time frame. So starting with ongoing, and then the next grouping with the heading at the top says years 1 through 4, etc. The timeframe categories serve as a guide for prioritizing future projects for Cosca. Staff already performs many of the ongoing actions listed in the table, and the remaining ongoing actions listed will begin upon approval of the strategic plan. Future actions will be undertaken as staffing and workload allow, and the board will be able to revise the timeframes as needed if they need to be put off longer in the case of, low staffing or other priorities coming in. So we'll revise the table annually. As far as next steps, we will begin implementation of the new ongoing actions upon approval of the plan. We'll develop a plan to accomplish the actions listed in years 1 through 4 timeframe, and we'll provide annual status reports on the strategic plan implementation progress as stated in Implementation Action 10.8.1 on page 23 of the final plan document, which is the separate document that was included. In conclusion, this strategic plan document is the result of an active public involvement project effort and provides clear direction for Cosca's future. And staff recommends that the board approve the final Cosca strategic plan, and I'm available for questions.
Very good presentation. Questions of Ms. Austin? I think you've encapsulated all the things we discussed at the last meeting, and no one else has any comments. I just want to congratulate staff and managing the consultants, because it really has been a big effort, and I think it will really serve us well in the coming years to have this put together and things we've thought out. So very much appreciate your assistance. What's the pleasure of the board? Director Gibson?
I would gladly move that we adopt the strategic plan as presented.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or noes? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
I do have a question.
Certainly, Director Bilden.
With the funding mechanisms, I wasn't here at the last meeting. I'm not sure whether that was discussed. Is that going to be considered any further with the options available to us or presented to us?
I'm sorry, can you clarify your question?
The funding mechanisms that are presented in this proposal.
Okay.
Is that something that we're going to discuss further more in detail in the future?
We can, if you would like us to present those in further detail. Do you mean we would present to you?
I mean, we have financing mechanisms. I mean, obviously, we somehow have to pay for whatever we would like to accomplish. So and we have several presentations or proposals here. Are we going to discuss those more seriously is what I'm asking in the future.
We can return to the board with maybe a more in-depth analysis of those funding mechanisms and their usability, I guess. Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, let me just say that I spent a while trying to get into all of the different tables and et cetera in the plan and in the revisions. And I do need a little more time to get completely up to speed with everything. I don't want to belabor it tonight, but some of the abbreviations I don't know. And I didn't know if you were going to go through the changes that were made and why they were made. They seem well, the points seem to be well taken in making them. But I'm sure you've been through this. All the board members have many times, and so maybe I'd better get a little counseling on my own at the appropriate time. But I just want to make it clear that I have not digested everything completely in this report.
Well, there's a lot to digest, and I'm sure that staff will be happy to answer any of your questions or talk to you either email or in person or on the phone.
Thank you.
Yes, Director Gibson.
Again, I want to commend the staff and for all the work they put in doing this. I think going forward, it would be very useful as we have items on our agenda, staff reports, and it's something that we do at the district with our strategic plan, is within each staff report there's a brief paragraph, and the general manager can relate that to you, that basically calls out how that action or how that report relates to the plan. Because the last thing we want to do is take this plan and put it on the shelf. and lose sight of it and say, oh, 5 years from now we need to update it. But it's really a living document, and I think it would be useful to demonstrate as we have items coming forward for action or information or whatever, and you know, where in the plan are those things called out? And if they're not called out, then that tells us something that, okay, maybe we need to have something down the road to update the plan with. So, but again, I want to commend staff for an excellent job, for all the public involvement that went on in this, and I think, you know, you ended up with a very good plan for us to go forward with.
Just one last question, Madam Chair. These time frames, years 1 through 4, 5 through 7, and 7 and beyond, when did that clock start on these time periods?
Yes.
Yeah, it starts upon approval of the plan.
So
it'd be
it starts tonight. Okay.
Yes, Director Fox.
Just to build on what Director Gibson was talking about, I noted in the plan that, at least I thought I read that we're going to come back yearly, on a yearly basis, just to kind of check in, see where we're at. I also thought I read in there that as things get done, that will be reported back to Cosca at our meetings. Now, if I misread that, then I think that that's something that we probably want to incorporate. I don't know if we need to incorporate it in a strategic plan, but it's certainly to be agendized as we complete the various objectives and implementations. Then, what are we meeting 3 times a year now? 4,
yes.
more or less? Yeah.
Scheduled for 4.
There you go. That as we complete those, certainly through the 1 through 4, that, you know, there's a report back to Cosca. I think that's in the document already, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we're going to be reporting back annually in sort of an overall report, but then we can also do what you're saying and what Director Gibson said, which is to, in each report, add a section that says what part of the strategic plan we're addressing.
Right, and then as agenda items come up, how that ties to the street,
Right.
if it does.
Yes.
All right, very
Yes.
good.
Okay. Any other comments? Well done. Thank you. Next is our Open Space Trails Advisory Committee appointments. Ms. Ford.
Thank you, Chair Skay, and good evening, board members. I have a PowerPoint. City Clerk's office posted the vacancy notice for 4 Cosstack vacancies on February 26th. We had 6 applications, although one applicant subsequently withdrew their application due to schedule conflicts. Ms. Austin and I interviewed the 5 applicants on May 8th and 9th and made recommendation to the nomination subcommittee, which is comprised of Chair Skay and Director Jim Friedel and myself. And following this process, these nomination subcommittee is recommending 4 members being appointed. The first, Anna Maria Huber. She's a current alternate, and she's in the back row there. She's an environmental consultant and a native plant enthusiast who hikes. Mark Langton, who's also here with us, and current chair of Cosstack. He is a mountain bike and a motorcycle skills instructor, musician and a writer, and we know he's an avid mountain biker. Ray Mocha, who would be a new addition to the committee. He is a 4th and 5th grade teacher, a hiker, and also a mountain biker. And Craig Percy, who is a current member, he was appointed last year to the committee to fill an unexpected opening. He is the executive editor at Sage Publications. He's a hiker and an all-around open space supporter. And for an alternate, we're recommending Jason Johnson. He is a current member, although he's a paramedic, and because of the nature of his job, he's unable to make many of the meetings. And so he is requesting an alternate position. He is a mountain biker and a trail runner. So with the board's approval, staff will notify these members and the alternate of their appointments.
What's the board's pleasure?
Second.
All right, been moved and seconded. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or noes? Motion carries. And And congratulations, Anna Marie and Mark, and the rest of the nominees, Mr. Mocha and Mr. Percy. So, thank you. And we next have a staff report from Mr. Kuba on the spring fire.
The video. And we have a video.
Yes. The video is kind of incongruent. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's just to distract you while I'm talking, actually. We all have our own stories of the recent fire. I know Director Fox probably has some very dramatic stories. But I'm going to give you a little bit of what the park rangers went through and what Cosca went through. The fire started early in the morning, crested at Dos Vientos about an hour later, and then dropped into Dos Vientos in about 7 or 8 minutes. It was a very, very fast descent. And the one thing that I was amazed at, standing on the hill watching the fire come down, was the 100-foot clearance around the houses stopped the fire, almost all the way around Dos Vientos. It was amazing. I want to say that Shelley and Ranger Bruce did a great job going down to the Incident Command Center, meeting with the liaisons down there to protect archaeological sites throughout where the fire was headed, so that bulldozer lines were not built in certain places, and protected those. The Rangers spent most of their time keeping people off of our trails because there were spot fires all over the place. So the Rangers did a great job at that. I think one of the best things that happened was the communication between the fire department and myself and CRPD was so good, just because of our personal relationships with the firemen, and because the Ventura County Fire as a whole understands us and knows what we do. And they were on the phone. Hey, Matt, it's turning. The fire's turning. We're thinking it might go here. We're going to be setting up dozer lines possibly tonight. Can we meet and talk about it? It was great to be able to have that input from the land management point of view. And an example of that is the fire. They wanted to start a backfire in Rancho Potrero, and we met. We looked at the topography, and we were able to determine another location to do the backfire, and that's protected a lot of grasshopper sparrow and other sensitive habitat. So we were really proud of that action. So that's basically my perspective of what we ended up doing, and I'm available for questions if you'd like.
Questions of yes, Claudia?
Yes, I do. I have to agree with you. The communication and coordination with the first responders, police, fire was fabulous. And I remember the first day when you came in and to give us an update. What I wanted to know is there was quite a concern about the archaeological resources. Were we able to protect some of those, or not at all?
The ones on our property, definitely. And I know of quite a few sites throughout that were maybe burned over, but they were not bulldozed. There was no line cut through them. So they stayed in their natural state. Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Yes,
Not really a question. I do want to make a comment. I think folks are aware, LA City did send a number of engine companies to this incident, so I had the opportunity to come out and oversee the city's aspect. So I was actually at the command post relatively early, and I just want to let the residents know what a great job your Ventura County Fire Department did, particularly Chiefs Miller and Chief Smith. All the command staff and certainly the firefighters, their ability to bring some coordination to a very dynamic situation. This fire literally blew up in the first half hour. I think by the time it was over, it was 28,000 acres or something like that. And for those of you who hadn't had a chance to drive the fire from Dos Vientos all the way around into Point Magoo, it's quite extraordinary, the work that the Ventura County Fire Department did, its ally agencies, and then ultimately CAL FIRE came in and took the fire over. So great job by our local firefighters.
Absolutely.
I have
Indeed.
to echo that. Thank you, Mr. Fox and Councilmember Fox for LA City Fire and other teams that came in from as far away as Nevada, Arizona, to fight this. So everybody was quite happy with how all the personnel
Indeed.
responded.
And in fact, my son was on a strike team from, and of course the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority also had a strike team that was mainly working on state park property to assist them in protecting their structures there.
It was a little odd. Just on a humorous note, I was walking through one of the neighborhoods in Dos Vientos, not dressed like I normally am for city council meetings, and kind of the double takes were kind of funny. They were like, aren't you
Do
the
I
guy
know
on
you?"
TV? So,
Wear a lot of hats.
yeah, it's amazing. Some people, they don't realize we have other jobs. They think we do the council stuff full time, and thank God we don't.
Yeah, right. Yes, Director Gibson.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of credit to go around, and first and foremost, thanks to all the responders who did what they did. But I'd like to thank Matt for the work that he did on
Here,
behalf
here.
of both Cosca and
Absolutely.
CRPD. I know for a fact that he was out there as long as anybody else was and helping coordinate, well, not on the front line, a lot of what needed to be done to keep people, off of trails and work with the cultural sites and the aspects of it. And I think it's really a credit both to our city staff who responded, our Rec and Park staff, our Cosca staff, our rangers who were out there, the teamwork that went together, and I think it demonstrates, sort of how well we work together in this community and even the greater community at large. So, thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Yes, Director Bildo.
Well, obviously, a lot of credit goes to Matt Kuba for doing what you did. I didn't expect you coming in just a couple of hours later already reeking of smoke and all that, but you were definitely in there right by the fire. Also, it was good to see General Manager Jim Friedel and Tom Hare at the community center, Thousand Oaks Community Center, where the Red Cross had set up the shelter. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, there weren't a lot of people there. But it was good to see really all of the concern and cooperation and coordination. So I just wanted to mention that too.
Yes. Thank you very much, Matt. And as long as you're up there, would you like to... I'm sorry, Ms. Ford.
I was just going to ask if Mr. Kuba can update for the public the status of our open space and trails and
Yeah,
just so
absolutely.
that people
That's
are-
actually in the next.
my apologies.
Next report.
Jumped the gun. Sorry.
And I do have a PowerPoint for this. This is the late spring ranger activities that have been going on. There we go. Once again, I'm going to try and put up a historic photo of open space every time I bring something. This was one of the first Renaissance fairs was actually held
Skeleton
at
Canyon.
Wildwood, and we found that picture. I thought that was an interesting one. Okay, post-fire activities, and that's as it crusted into Dos Vientos. We lost one bench, but
Remarkable.
the footing and everything's still good, so we're just replacing the wood. And this gives you an idea of what damage the bulldozers kind of can do. This is a trail on the north side of the Dos Vientos development, and the dozers came through, and at one of the briefings one morning, they said, "Matt, what do you need? We've cut a line. We think we messed up some trails. We'd like to meet out there." We went out, met with them, showed them where we wanted to go. The next day, there were 3 hand crews out there, and they got it all cleaned up within one day. It was amazing, the amount of work, and it's just beautiful. Yeah, moved a lot of dirt by hand. So we were really happy with that. And in terms of our trails, Rancho Potrero, our trails there are open. We do have one trail that is still closed to the Olympia Farms area, and we're working to try and keep people on the trail. That's the big problem right now, is now everything's open. People say, "Oh, I want to go up to the top of that hill." So we kind of started a positive trail marking system, similar to what you see in the photo there with the flags along the side. We have some flags posted out at Rancho Potrero so that and we have signage that says, please stay on the trails that are marked with a flag. So far, it's doing pretty good. I know national parks and state parks are having a lot of problems with people that have always wanted to get to a certain hill or access an area in a certain way because it's easier or more challenging or more fun, one of the three. And so they're spending a lot of enforcement time out there. But Rancho Portero is doing okay, and the Dos Vientos area, those trails are in really good shape right now. So do use them, get out there and look at, and kind of put it in your mind what it looks like now, and next spring, go back up there. It's going to be fantastic. Another big project the Rangers have been working on, we had a major blowout last year on one of the trails, and by blowout I mean more than half the trail was washed away. This is a very steep section of trail and very inaccessible except through one person's property, and we worked closely with the person. He gave us permission to bring in some big machines. I think we brought in 25 tons of rock and rebuilt the trail. We built a footing and moved in the rock with this large machine that we rented. We now want to buy one of these machines. It was awesome. We replaced a culvert. Most of that work was done by hand. Those two seasonal workers that we have did a great job on that. And that's what it looks like after. I didn't have a good shot before, but trust me, it was a mess. Right now, we're working on a vehicle removal thing. We have about a dozen vehicles that were abandoned in the 70s and 80s on open space. But we're having to come up with paperwork to get rid of vehicles. So the tow companies won't take a vehicle unless we have paperwork. We show them this picture. They go, well, it's a car. We have to have paperwork. So now we're talking to the sheriff, and we're coming up with a way to do it, and I think we'll get there. But we want to get, we're hoping to get 7 of the vehicles out this year, and I think that'll be some habitat improvement. This is a product that we've used occasionally, but we've never had pictures of. It's called a Sutter wall, and it's metal pipes that are in an H shape, and you set wood in between them. You hammer in the metal and then set the wood in. It's very efficient, very long-lasting, and it creates a lot of trust between coworkers is what it really does. And this was up on the Rosewood Trail. And I didn't have a sunset picture, so we're going to end with a fire with the sun behind it. All right? I'm available for questions.
Very, very good. Questions? Yes, Director Opinion.
Perhaps this is an odd question. I was wondering, besides vehicles, have you been finding golf balls at all?
Oh, yeah, that's an always.
Okay, because this weekend we had to convince a couple of young men not to be swinging golf balls into the open space. They were trying to get rid of them. They had their golf clubs with them on
really?
Los Robles Trail. And is that something that is common, that people just go out there to swing instead of going to the driving range?
Yeah, yeah. Or out of the backyard.
No, they actually entered the trail and to practice.
I've seen it before, yeah, and that's not a good thing.
No.
Golf balls, as they decay, are very toxic and not a good thing to have out in open space.
Do we need to start putting signs up? Not that will make much of a difference, but
we really don't want to put up signs for everything.
Okay.
So it's kind of isolated compared
is it?
to a lot
Okay,
of
good.
stuff.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, right. Okay. No other questions for Mr. Kuba? Great. Thank you very much. So finally, we have the report on the 2013 Caneo Open Space Challenge results.
Thank you, Chair Skay. We had 25 participants this year, and 7 people completed the challenge. The post-event party was held on May 10th at the Boney Mountain Coffee Cafe in Dos Vientos, and prizes were awarded to the finishers and the photo contest winners. And the prizes were donated by the sponsors of the event, including Billy D's Backyard Barbecue, Boney Mountain Coffee, Michael's Bicycles, and Roadrunner Sports. And I would just like to thank our volunteer organizer, Steve Bacharach, who's also a Cosca member, who put the event together and got all the prizes and just did a great job. So
it was an ingenious challenge, I thought.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Engaged people. Very, very good.
Hopefully more people will participate next year.
Yes, Director Gibson.
Did we do any sort of press release with the winner, those people's names that completed the challenge?
We did not.
That might be a good idea, just to get it out there.
That's a great idea. We can still do that.
As well as acknowledging the sponsors, but more to acknowledge sort of the 7 that completed it. I mean,
Right.
The Star of the Acorn would, great.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay. Unless we have any other board member comments, members, I do want to congratulate Miss Austin on her recent wedding. So, but we
Thank
still call you
you.
Shelley Austin. Right? Let us know if we have a name change.
It will be Mason.
Either.
Sorry.
All right. Well. Again, thank you all so much for being here this evening, and our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, October 9th. So, oh, yes, sir.
May I make a couple of quick remarks?
Sure, we'll reopen public comments.
Right.
Yeah, you come right up to the mic if you would.
My name is Dick Hoos, and I'm a longtime resident of Thousand Oaks in the Conejo Valley.
Yeah.
My wife and I moved our young family out here about 50 years ago in 1962, and we bought a home on Waverly Heights Drive in the Waverly Heights area, right next to an open space, and the sheep herders were out there with their sheep in those days, and it was a very rural and very satisfying place to live. And our boys, who were pre-teens at the time, used to pack up their lunch and gather their friends, and they'd go off all day long, hike the open space areas up in the mountains. We never worried about them at all. We knew they'd get home in time for dinner because they always wanted dinner. So it was a wonderful time. Unfortunately, from my perspective, but it's inevitable, but unfortunate, another 100,000 people have joined us over the years. So it's not the same valley that it was in 1962 for sure. But it still has a very good, in my view, open, semi-rural feel to it. And of course, the people who are responsible for that have been the Conejo Recreation and Park District, the City of Thousand Oaks, Cosca, and a lot of other folks who will never be recognized or remembered, but they contributed. And I just think it's fantastic, and I'm so disappointed that there aren't more people here recognizing what you folks are doing tonight in adopting a strategic plan so that all of these thousands of acres that we have now that are open space, beautiful open space, will be there for future generations. I think it's a fantastic job, and I commend all of you and everybody else that had a part in it. Thank you.
And bless you, Mr. Hussein. As remarked, you're a former member of the Thousand Oaks City Council. Really
And
appreciate it. And I may assure you that although there's not a big audience in person, we do have the television audience, and I'm sure there's thousands of people in Thousand Oaks that are watching our meeting tonight. Well, we can hope, right?
He's a former mayor as well.
That's right. Thank you. Very good. Thank you so much. Well, with that lovely note, we will adjourn to October 9th. Thank you.